for now. We have news flashing at the bottom of your television screen. Government has cut the 5-year income scheme after quite a long time. 5-year senior citizen scheme over there, interest rate to 8.6% from 9.3%. Interest rate on Kisan Vikas Patra to 7.8% from 8.7%. That's the latest news that's breaking here on ET now. Interest rate and we have Supriya Srinate, our chief editor news, joining us live from New Delhi for more on that. Supriya, take it away.
Thank you very much. And this really is a setback as far as small saving rates are concerned, and at least for people like you and me who invest in these schemes, because EPF has come down to 8.1%, if I'm given to understand correctly. Of course, the National Savings Certificate, which is a big instrument for saving, for 5 years is down to 8.1%. The Girl Child Scheme 8.6 from 9.2. Kisan Vikas Patra, again a big initiative by the UPA in its last years, of course was being promoted by the NDA as well, is down to 7.8 from 8.7. But this really is giving you a picture of where the government wants to move in terms of its saving rate. It was much anticipated. It has finally been notified. The small saving rates are down. The government is trying to make sense of the mayhem that is in Indian banks, and which is why you see the deposit rates actually down. I'm given to understand Ruchi Bhatia, who tracks finance for us very closely, is joining us on the phone line right here. Ruchi, take it away. Help us understand the new rates that have been notified today on the small saving schemes.
What we given to understand is that the consumers may get very less returns on their small savings now. In fact, what we're given to understand is that the interest rate on short-term deposits has been significantly reduced. From anywhere between 1% to a little over 1.3%. What we're given to understand is that the government, remember they wanted to bring the small savings, in line with the current GSEC rates, and which is exactly the reason why the government has done this. Remember, we are also given to understand that as far as the short-term deposits of 1, 2, 3, and 5 years are concerned, the government has brought down rates from anywhere between 7.1 to 7.9%. As far as the only schemes that have remained, where there is a very little tinkering that has been done, are only the senior citizen schemes and the girl child schemes, where the government has done only a little about 0.5% tinkering. This, of course, will be revised quarterly on a quarter-on-quarter basis. A government committee will look into it, but obviously it's not a good news coming in for consumers. But because now their small savings will obviously would mean that they will get lesser interest on the same.
Let's take this across to Dhiren Kumar, who's been joining us on the phone line now. Dhiren, thank you very much for being with us. Along expected lines, but it is still very disappointing. Simply put, for our viewers, the FDs that you have in banks, and just to put it, really dumb it down for you, it will fetch much lower returns. From 8.4%, an FD for a 1-year period is going to be 7.1, an FD for a 2-year period from 8.4 is going to be 7.2, for a 3-year period 7.4, and a 5-year term time deposit it will be 7.9. Kisan Vikas Patra, the return will be lower, much lower actually, 7.8% from 8.7 earlier. The Girl Child Scheme 8.6 to 9.2. EPF rates cut as well. Dhiren, your quick take on this, a big dampener as far as middle class is concerned, because these are really their saving instruments, so to say.
Yeah, more than that, it is big disappointment for the retirees, because, they are the people who are badly hurt. They are the people who can't invest in a manner where they can beat inflation. And, despite the, inflation is coming down. And this is just the beginning. This is just the beginning of bad time for them, because, from now on, these interest rates will be revised every quarter. So far, they used to get revised every year. That apart, if the RBI government get the inflation and it has come down substantially, which means it is just the beginning and we have long way to go down. And that can create a havoc for retirees, because their saving is not inflation protected. In the worst of times, their savings was not beating inflation. And now on the way down, it is very much catching up with.
Fair point indeed. You're making a very valid point there, Dhiren. But is there any getting away from this, considering the health of the banks? And the government has been talking about it for a while. They believe deposit rates need to go down, and which is perhaps why it has. And you're rightly pointing out it is going to hurt the retiree the worst.
Unfortunately, the government and the banks will be key beneficiary of the interest rates going down, and it is entirely at the cost of long-term savers in fixed income. And banks do dumb investment, provide bad credit. That is not a depositor's problem. So I think we have to really think in terms of who it is benefiting, why so, and should we be worried about it? Yes, it is entirely at the of this country who are very diligently saving, and they have historically trusted the small savings, and there the government is actually and government is the biggest beneficiary because government being the biggest borrower over time.
All right. I am also given to understand I've got Sandeep Shanbag on the phone lines with me. Sandeep, thanks very much for being with us. And like Dhiren is pointing out there, it really does hurt the middle class. It hurts the retiree. The mess that banks are in on account of lending to the really big people, the really big defaulters, is not the concern of a retiree, is not the concern of an Aam Aadmi or a middle class who really wants to keep his money safe by depositing it in fixed deposit. This was almost a breach of trust, if I may, the government has done with that community. I mean, levels to 7.1%. Who would want to invest in an FD right now? But just to get your quick take, did you see this coming, and did you see such a sharp cut coming actually, Sandeep?
Ever since the PPF rate had been modified to market determined rates, one expected some sort of a volatility in the interest. One never expected this sharp a cut to come in. So essentially, it is a shocker. It is a shocker, and I don't think yet the news has been digested by the common man. However, that being said, look, I have been the biggest evangelist of PPF for forever. So I do wish and hope the government sees that PPF is the only remaining meaningful retirement solution that is available to the common man, be an employee or a self-employed person or a professional. At the end of the day, interest rates, it still is tax-free. I'm looking at the silver linings. It is still tax-free. There has been no tax on maturity. So these are the couple of silver linings that the common man has, got to clutch at. But that being said, if interest rates
being a common man, I'm not really happy to clutch on with these silver linings. I trusted the government. I put my money in. Your banks have ended into a mess. It's really your problem and the problem of your lenders. I think as a common man, it really enrages me of why the government has done this. And we were debating EPF just a while back, and now look at PPF. I mean, that's a big saving instrument. At least I, for once, do put a lot of my money in there with a lot of faith. From 8.7%, you've got the rates down to 8.1. FD rates are down. Is Shailesh Haribhakti with me on the phone line? If my director can confirm that very quickly, because I'd like to take it across. Okay, Shailesh Haribhakti joins us as well. Shailesh, we've been talking at length and at nauseum almost as far as the EPF debate was concerned. And look at what the government does here. Once bitten, twice shy doesn't quite hold for New Delhi. I mean, EPF, there was such a public backlash. And look at the way small saving rates have been cut. This is not a minor tinkering. And like Dhiren was pointing out there, this isn't going to be an annual exercise. It is going to be a quarterly affair. It is really going to hurt the Aam Aadmi, the retiree, the middle class that wants to trust the public sector banks, that wants to trust the government institutions with their money.
Correct. No, I think we should really recognize the fact that there is no yield. If the PSU bonds, equities, any other asset class in which investments are done are not yielding what might be able to afford a return, there's no way that a incremental amount can be paid out of past reserves or past accumulations indefinitely. And therefore, this is a denouement which, although it is very sad for the common man, I think it is inevitable. And I think it only points to me that all schemes of long-term savings must move to defined contribution. This whole idea of promising a particular quantum of benefit is an idea whose time has come to go.
Shailesh, I agree with you. I mean, prudently speaking, that's the economically, financially the right thing to do. But the question also is that there is an Aam Aadmi that the government needs to take care of. There is a common man concern that the government should be holding very close to its heart. And you're right. If the yields are not coming, where will the banks pay up from? But, it is up to the government. It is up to the banks to get their books in order. It is up to the government to improve the macro scenario. Because I'll tell you, and I can tell you with some amount of certainty that the backlash on social media is going to be bordering on the breach of trust bit, just like it did in EPFO.
Well, I mean, we will have to face this reality at some point. Today the surplus money sitting with large accumulated funds, they don't even wish to invest it in PSU bonds because the bonds are, as you very rightly point out, there is no certainty about either the yield or the quality of the bond. And therefore, everybody wants to invest in GSECs. And what is GSECs? What does it do? Already 25% of every rupee that the government of India takes in goes for interest. So if you keep enhancing the interest that you pay on saving, that 25% will keep going up. And who's going to get hurt? Guess who? The common man, because of inflation. Ultimately, the only reason why we seem to be somewhat protected is because we have a very tight rein on the fiscal deficit. And I must bring this to the attention of your viewers that we have a 25% claim of interest alone on the Government of India's budget.
That is true. I mean, fiscal deficit has indeed taken care of some of our woes that would have come back to haunt us. But Sandeep Shanbhag, if I may come to you on this, the point that Shailesh is making that, if there are no yields, where do you expect the government sector banks to produce deposit returns from? And it is high time that the middle class in India realizes that we need to market determined rates of return, and which is why there needs to be the contribution schemes away from the assured sum schemes. Is that an argument that cuts ice with you?
Well, yes and no. I have mixed reactions to this because at the end of the day, PPF was a sort of a social security scheme. So there, somewhere down the line, it is the responsibility of the government. If the yields are not there, it is time to dip into your pocket. It is time to basically produce the money from somewhere for the social security, for the ostensible social security of the country, of the people of the country. At the end, but that being said, one also has to remember that this is not a final measure. That means it does not mean that the interest rates are going to be permanently down. If there's a turnaround and if there's a rate increase instead of a rate cut, then again the interest rates can be moved upwards in sympathy with the interest rate environment. So it cuts both ways. We just hope that the government is fair and does not view it as a one-way street. That being said, what I meant about the silver lining initially is that yes, there has been a breach of trust or whatever you might call it. However, that being said, one has to remember that the interest rate is still tax-free and it is still under triple E. It is not under EET. So these are the couple of things that one can clutch on to in times of gloom and doom.
All right, many hopes to clutch on to. I don't know if that's going to ensure we keep afloat, but Dhiren Kumar is back on air with us. And Dhiren, the point that Shailesh was making and the point that partially Sandeep agrees with but totally doesn't, the point, I think we lost you at that point in time when Shailesh said banks have no yield. They do not have the money to pay back these deposits. It's time Indian middle class and Indian retirees realize they need to move to a market-based rate of return. Contributions should be the way forward and not a sums. But in a country like ours, where there is no social security, is that an argument that impresses you at all?
No, not at all. If banks have no yield, that is their problem. But the substantial borrower is the government. When we
All right, I request my director to get back Dhirendra on another line, because I think this phone line is garbled and we will have to get him on another line. But Shailesh, if I may throw your argument back at you, and I think you have a point of view there, and I think I appreciate that point of view, that in a prudent market-led economy, in a market-driven economy, you cannot have these assured sums of return. But what is the government's role then? The government's role is to take care of people at large, and middle class is a part of its constituency. So can the government shy away from its responsibility? You don't have a social security and you reduce whatever you have.
No. This is not to be viewed in that light. It is the entire management of these savings is in the hand of an independent EPFO organization. They are making calls like any other conscientious fund manager makes calls. It is just the reality of life that yields are falling off. And why are they falling off? Because inflation is falling and we are moving to a completely different equilibrium. And we need to recognize that you cannot keep fueling additional interest costs in an economy which is seeking to control its fiscal deficit. Otherwise, we will have unbridled inflation, which will hit the common man even more. So we need to look at it in the overall context of what is really happening. This is reality. You just have to face it.
Right. That's a point indeed. There are consequences, and I guess you're right. I mean, fiscal deficit at one level is something that obsessed the nation completely, and now that fiscal deficit has been taken care of, it is going to have less of an inflationary impact, and if this is going to have less of an inflationary impact, it should not worry the common man as much as it is. I am in a moment from now going to have a big voice on this story. I can promise my viewers right now. I'm wondering if Dhirendra is back on air with us, and can I take it across to him? All right, he's not back on the air with us right now, but Sandeep, if I may come to you, the government kept its promise by sticking to the fiscal consolidation roadmap, and in some sense, it has anchored the inflationary concerns. Is it now time to then credit the government for what it has done, take these cuts in small saving rates into a stride and move on? Can life be as usual for a lot of people who actually invest in instruments where the small saving rates have been reduced?
Look, as far as interest rates and all these fiscal consolidation measures are concerned, I can understand it, but I can understand it being applicable to a whole lot of things. But there are some sacred cows which are, and PPF is one of them. I mean, basically it's a social security measure, and one cannot one cannot lose sight of that fact. Market determined rates, etc., is all good in its place. However, when something affects literally the whole population of India, the whole small savings population, by definition, it is the small saver, then there has to be a certain bit of prudency from the other side of the table. So I guess you can argue both ways, but from the small savers' point of view, I think the rate cut is a little too large to digest. It had to be moderated if it had to be done.
All right, you're right there. If it had to be done, it had to be more moderate, and it does not have to be reviewed every quarter. I mean, that's also the big elephant in the room that we haven't spoken about as much. Any ideas why they have read interest rate on postal saving deposits unchanged at 4%? Perhaps it's too low to cut in any case. Sandeep?
Yeah, you said it right. It is a little too insignificant, but one can also add the word yet to the story. Postal rate has been not being tampered with yet, but tomorrow is another day.
Did I lose you there? You want to repeat the last point you made, Sandeep?
No, I said that one could add the word yet. That postal rate has not been cut yet, but tomorrow is another day. So we cannot say that the postal rate has been left untouched per se. All defined control. I mean, all savings rates, small savings rates, will ultimately be affected one way or another. So I guess only time will tell.
That's a fair point indeed. It's just yet it hasn't been cut, and I appreciate your point, Sandeep, and do stay on the phone line with us. Just for the benefit of your viewers, I'm going to quickly wrap up the story because I am trying to get a good guest here to talk about it from North Block in a moment from now. But just to quickly wrap up the story for the benefit of our viewers right now, the government has gone ahead and slashed the small saving rate rather steeply. The rate of interest rate on a one-year time deposit is 7.1% now, down from 8.4%. On a 2-year period, it's at 7.2%. On a 3-year period, it's 7.4%. 5-year time deposit, it is at 7.9%, down from a very high level of 8.5%. All right. We will have to take a quick breather here. We will come back with plenty more and get you guests on that story, because this is a story that impacts your life and you've got to know everything about it.
Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/ETNow and don't forget to click the like button. You can also follow us on Twitter at ETNowLive. To stay updated with all our programming, hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel by logging on to youtube.com/user/ETNow.